Hey everyone. All right. Some of you had asked about, some of you knew I did a trip, coast to coast trip. I did a lot of short videos on it. Kind of just wherever we were at, I'd take the time to do a short video, but this will be a little bit longer here because I'll go over a few things that some of you had asked about. How the trip come about, that type of stuff. And also, how did we travel when we camped? What did we take with us? What did we have with us? How do we set up? That kind of stuff. So here goes. 2023 Pan America is what I was on, a Harley Davidson adventure bike. They came out with that back in 2020, 2021, right around there. And at any rate, I had bought one earlier this year, and I decided that's what I wanted to take to do my coast-to-coast trip. For years, I kept telling my wife, I'm going to do a coast-to-coast trip on a motorcycle. And, for probably a good 15 years, I was telling her that. And so this year, actually earlier this year, it was probably January, a friend of mine called and said, hey, there's a group of us going out to Colorado. We're shipping our bikes out to Denver and flying out. And then we're going to do a loop, 1,700 mile loop around Colorado. Would you want to go along? I said, well, yeah, I'd like that, but I've been planning on doing a trip, coast to coast trip. How about I just meet you guys there? I'll ride down to the Atlantic Ocean and see the Atlantic. And we did that in Dewey, Delaware. And from there, I'll go out to Pacific Ocean out in California, Southern California, Oceanside, and that area. And then we'll come up and meet you in Colorado, and we'll do 1,700 mile loop there, and then we'll ride back. Well, at first it was just going to be me, and then a friend of mine, Willie Zook, he calls, he says, hey, you mind if I do that trip with you, the coast to coast? I said, not a problem. So we started planning. So we had, the agenda was to ride coast to coast, see the Atlantic Ocean, head west, see the Pacific Ocean. So we ended up with, I kind of broke it down for myself. I broke it down into the A, B's, and C's, things that we're going to do, things that we might want to do, and some other stuff like that. So to give you an example, the A list, these were musts. We're going coast to coast. And then we're riding from California, from the Pacific coast, to Colorado, meeting the other guys in Denver, do a 1,700 mile loop. And then from there, we're riding back to Pennsylvania, Lancaster area, or back to the Atlantic, kind of whatever we wanted to do. So that was the A list. That was the agenda. From there, we picked a few other things out that we would like to do. Some of you follow Adam Sandoval on his rides and what he does, and he has the K River Campground in Oklahoma. And we said, well, we'd like to stay at the K River Campground. So we picked Saturday night to do that. We planned on leaving June 2nd on a Friday, June 2nd. We left Pennsylvania, went down to Dewey, Delaware, and got out, saw the Atlantic Ocean. I dipped my toes in it just because I wanted to. And from there, headed to the K River Campground. We did stop in Tennessee at a campground. We had tents along, and we set up our tents. Now, with the tents, we weren't setting up, we weren't building fires, we weren't, when we did the camping, we were there for a night to get some sleep. That was it. We didn't build a fire and sit there and roast hot dogs or burgers or anything. That wasn't our goal with that. So we slept at Tennessee the first night. We just set up our tents. I set my hammock. I stretched that between two trees. We found a campground there. Did about 800 miles the first day. And then from there went to K River, stayed there on Saturday evening. And then we headed I wanted to ride the Sedona area, 89A down through Sedona, Arizona. And listen, some of these, I might not pronounce some of these towns correctly. I know I already didn't on some of my earlier videos. Hey, you know what? I don't say everything quite the way it's supposed to be said. We have people that say Lancaster. No, it's Lancaster, Pennsylvania. But, whatever. So I might screw up some of the town names. Oh, well. All right, if you want to correct me in the comments, go for it. I don't care. So we ended up headed for Sedona. Well, we hit a couple major rainstorms going through New Mexico, and we slowed down. It slowed us down quite a bit. So we didn't put as many miles on as we wanted to, and that would have been on Sunday. From there, we ended up getting a room, would have been Sunday evening, just west of Albuquerque, New Mexico. And because we hit traffic too, there was a bad accident. I mean, literally, the highway was shut down. We ended up going through the median and ended up trying to circle around. And then we got caught in traffic there too. The one person we talked to at the gas station, they said, well, they avoided all of it because their daughter got stuck in it. And she said it was a 3-hour delay. So at any rate, that slowed us down. So we didn't get as far as we wanted to that evening, but we got it out and made it to just west of Albuquerque, New Mexico. That night we got a motel room because we were a little damp from all the rain and stuff. So we were like, yeah, we don't feel like setting up tents and, trying to dry our clothes out, outside. So got a motel room that evening. Next day we headed for Sedona. We got down, and 89A, if you've never been down through there, it is just beautiful. It's some beautiful riding down through Arizona. And I had been there before. That's why I wanted to do it on a motorcycle. Willie had never been there, but I said, hey, that's fine. Scottsdale, Arizona, that was another one. And this was stuff that was on the B list. Hey, this is what we're definitely doing. If we have time, we're going to put in some extra things. Well, so these were things that we had planned out before we left, said these are some stops we want to make. Scottsdale, Harley Davidson, one of the largest dealership in the world, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that, so don't quote me on that for sure. But it is a very big dealership, and it's very nice. Again, I'd been there before, Willie hadn't, but I said I'd like to stop in there again. So as we're going down 89, and this is what I love about motorcycles and the motorcycle community. We're going down 89A, we're in Sedona, well, I stop at a traffic light, and I notice there's a third motorcycle behind me, a guy behind Willie. No big deal, so it's another motorcycle. We pull up to the traffic light, and this guy comes up beside me, he says, where are you going? Because he noticed we had Pennsylvania plates, so he knew we were out of town. Because we're in Arizona, so we're a few miles from home. And he says, where are you going? I said, Scottsdale, Harley. And he said, hey, you want to go the back way? I said, sure. I looked at Willie and I said, you want to follow him around the back way? He said, yeah, I know Willie's like, yeah, let's go. So we followed this guy. Scott was his name. We followed this guy, and he took us around the back, showed us some of the scenic routes and stuff. And that evening, we got down to Scottsdale. It was 107 degrees, 108 degrees. Mine was reading around 107. Willie's was 109. Anyway, right in that, it was warm, very warm. And this guy tells us, hey, look, we told him we were planning on setting up a tent and camping that night. He said, you don't want to camp. I'll get you a discount at one of the resorts, an employee discount at one of the resorts that I represent. So we got one heck of a nice room that night, and we got it for less than half the regular price. It was nice. It was a beautiful place. So we stayed there that evening. We had got something to eat with him. We had, with Scott, we had got had a drink or two at a brewery that he said is very good. So that was wonderful. It was a lot of fun. Next morning, 5 a.m., we wanted to get up and head west before we had all the, get ahead of the heat there. So we headed west, headed for Oceanside, California. From there, after we got to Oceanside, of course, I put my feet in the Pacific. Oh, here's something that's interesting. Not everyone can ride. We all have different riding styles, put it that way. I knew Willie and I, our riding style is pretty much the same. So I knew that wasn't going to be a problem, because we were going to get out of the East Coast and get out to the West, or, towards the West, Arizona, California area as quickly as possible, because we can, if I want to go to Tennessee, I can leave Saturday morning, get down there, and turn around, come back home, be home Sunday night. That's a weekend trip or a weekend ride. Well, we wanted to get out west as quickly as we could. So we left Dewey, Delaware, and we did not stop and have a good sit-down meal until Monday afternoon when we were in Jerome, Arizona. And I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. If not, well, correct me. But I think I'm saying that the right way. And that was the first time. That was Monday afternoon. We left Friday morning. We had breakfast in Dewey, Delaware. Had a nice little breakfast. Other than that, it was pretty much gas and go. We had, now, it doesn't mean we didn't eat. We did, we'd sit down and get like a gas station burger or a, hot dog or a slice of pizza, or, the one morning we did get a little more for breakfast, but still, we kept moving. We didn't sit down and relax and take it easy until Monday afternoon. And then we slowed down a little bit. But we were doing a lot of, 700-800 mile days back to back. We got out to Oceanside, and Willie was like, man, I have never been to Hoover Dam. Well, okay. Now this is an example of something that's on the C list. The A's, we're doing this. Point A, point B, we're doing that. The stuff that's on the B list was the stuff that we had discussed before we left, and said, hey, we have time. It looks like we'll have time to fit this in. Let's put this in. Stuff that's on the C list is stuff that, as we're riding, we said, hey, you know what? Let's do this. We have time. It turns out we were about a day and a half, 2 days ahead of schedule. So he said, I've never been to the Hoover Dam. Let's go to the Hoover Dam. So we went to the Hoover Dam. From Oceanside, we went up, we saw Laidlaw's, stopped in there. I watch a lot of Matt Laidlaw's videos. Got to meet Andrew. He's in a lot of the videos. Laidlaw's Harley Davidson. They do a lot of videos. And whenever Harley comes out with a new product or a new line or something different, make some changes, he does some real good videos and very in-depth videos. So we stopped at the Laidlaw's Harley Davidson, and then headed for Hoover Dam from there. From Hoover Dam, we stopped in Vegas, and then I-15 north, and we headed for Montrose, Colorado. So we did got a motel one night because it was too windy. We were going to set up our tents, and it was extremely windy. So we said, well, we were trying to find a place where we could get behind the wind a little bit. It wasn't working out. So we said, we got a motel that night too. In Nevada. Actually, it would have been in Utah. We ended up camping, pulled into the campground, spent the night. Again, took our time. We didn't take a lot of time at the campground, but we got our tents, set them up, slept. That's about it. We didn't really take time to hang out there very long. Next morning, we get up, we rode up, got a cup of coffee, filled up with fuel. And actually, we did get some breakfast that morning, and went back, tents down, headed for Montrose, Colorado. From there, we took 50, and we went to my nephew's house in Canyon City. And again, I think I'm saying that right, Canyon City. However, they say it a little bit differently out there. But ended up hanging out there for the night, and slept there, and went to my niece's house in Colorado Springs. Close to Colorado Springs the next day. And we added a few more things in because we had extra time. So again, we added some of put some stuff in the C list, stuff that, hey, you know what? This would be nice to do. Now we have time to do it. So we did took a couple more back roads and did some different routes that we weren't, Skyline Drive, for example, that's out in Colorado. We did that. Just some stuff like that. My nephew told me, Steve, he told me there's some roads. Man, you got to take these roads. These are great roads. So we did that. Couple different, I don't remember all the routes and the names of the roads. He kind of mapped it out and told us how to go. Our nephew, Steve, and Ruthie. I have a nephew, Steve, married to Rachel. They live in Colorado. And I have a niece, Ruthie, married to a Steve. And they live in Colorado Springs. So Steve and Ruthie, Steve and Rachel. At any rate, we ended up staying at Stephen Ruthie's the one night also. Again, we had extra time, so we took some time there, hung out with their kids, had a blast with their kids. Their kids were just a trip. From there, headed to Denver Saturday morning and met 6 other guys. Then we did a 1,700 mile loop. That was we slowed down. We took our time, very scenic. You know, if we did 350 miles a day, that was a good day. Whereas when Willie and I were riding, I mean, there were a few times we put 2 tanks of gas through before we even pulled over for anything to eat, or, you know, we'd grab a cup of coffee, suck that down and take off, and we'd put a tank or 2 of gas through before we even slowed down to really get anything to eat. That was just how we liked to ride. We wouldn't eat much. I eat protein bars, jerky, crackers, you know, that kind of stuff. Wouldn't eat much because it tires you out. You get tired a little quicker. You feel bloated and you don't have the energy. At least I don't. You have to eat a little something, but not as much. So anyway, I was on a 2023 Pan America. Willie was on a 2020 Road Glide, Harley Davidson Road Glide. He has a 128 in that bike. It runs pretty good. Bikes ran great. Everybody, I mean, we had a dead battery the one morning, but I had the battery pack. Kept that with me. We got the bike going that way. It wasn't any of ours. It wasn't Willie and I's. It was one of the other guys that we had met in Colorado. And for whatever reason, his battery was dead. Didn't happen again, but we had to jump it to get it started the one morning. So one of the things that, and another thing that people kept asking, sorry about that. Another one of the things that people kept asking is, how did you travel? You know, I have the side panniers. They're the soft side panniers. I have a hard case up top. These keep everything dry. I know that because of all the rain we went through. I opened them up. Everything was dry inside there. I had my tent, my sleeping bag, and I carry one of these. It's one of those blow-up mattresses. I mean, yeah, literally. This is how small it gets. And I have a small compressor with me that I carry in here and in my bag, in my tank bag. But to be honest with you, you can blow this up. It takes 2 minutes if you just blow it up manually. You can do it, you know, with your mouth. It's not that big a deal. I sleep all right on this. Laid that out in the tent on the ground. I sleep good, especially when I'm riding hard like that. It's not a big deal. Now, the hammock, I did set that up a few times. The phone keeps moving here. So I set that up a few times. I sleep real good in that also. So whatever, if there's no trees, it goes on the ground. I have one of those that can you can use both ways. You can use it as a tent or as a hammock. And this is what I kept in my tank bag. You gotta stay hydrated. I filled this with water. Just stuck the tube out, had it sticking out right here. Suck on that when I needed a drink. Get to the gas station, need more water, you fill it back up. 2 liters. That's what I used. That's basically how we did the trip. When we headed home, this is another thing that's an example of the C list. Something we were not planning when we left. But we're sitting at at a Texas Roadhouse out in Colorado, and we're sitting there. Our wives, my wife, Willie's wife, and a couple of other ladies, they had planned to go to Wildwood for a barefoot country music festival. They rode their bikes down, and we decided, we're sitting at the Texas Roadhouse, we're like, man, if we haul ass back from Pikes Peak to Wildwood, New Jersey, we could go back and surprise our wives on Sunday afternoon. Now, everything would have to go pretty good because that's, if I remember correctly, it's around 1,900 miles. So 1 o'clock, we went to Pikes Peak Friday morning. At 1 p.m., Willie and I said goodbye to everybody else because they were shipping their bikes. The other 6 guys were shipping their bikes home and going back to Denver, getting on an airplane and flying home. And so we left Pikes Peak at 1 p.m. Friday afternoon. Rode pretty hard Friday evening rode till dark, a little after dark actually. Got a motel room at 4 a.m. the next morning. We left, did 1,100 miles that Saturday, made it to Bedford, Pennsylvania. We were thinking about pushing through and just going the rest of the way, but it was pretty dark in the hills. If you know what it's like there in the hills of Pennsylvania, right in Bedford area, Pittsburgh, south of Pittsburgh, you start to see some dead deer and stuff, and we were like, you know what, let's pull over, get some rest. 6 o'clock the next morning, we got up and we headed for Smyrna, Delaware. We met Adam Sandoval in the Great American Convoy down at Smyrna, and we were there by 10:30 Sunday morning. So we left Pikes Peak Friday at 1 p.m. and we were in Smyrna, Delaware, and had breakfast in Smyrna, Delaware at 10:30 on Sunday morning. So we kept moving. From there, we met another guy, Lawrence Stoltz, who's another friend of ours, and his wife was with Willie and I's wives down at Wildwood. From there, we went down and surprised our wives in Wildwood, and they're hanging out by the pool, and we jumped the fence and they're like, they couldn't believe it. Because we weren't going to be back until the middle of the following week. We were going to take our time, but we had decided to add this in and go surprise them. So hopefully that answers some of your questions. If you have more questions on the bike or anything like that, just put stuff in the comments. Like and subscribe if you don't mind, because I am going to be doing more videos. I do a lot of short videos because for me, it's just easier to do that. Plus I have the attention span of a squirrel. I'm all over the place. So, I don't always, it takes a lot to keep my attention sometimes. So for me, it's easier to just do some short videos. I love doing some short ones and just put them out there, give you an idea of where I'm going, what I'm doing. But another thing that I want to mention before I end this video here, this was something that was on my bucket list for probably 15 years that I was talking about. A couple of years ago, I started to check some of this stuff off of my bucket list. And this was a big one. Now, I've got a couple more things that I'm going to be doing next year. My trip is to the West Coast again, but on the north side. This year, we're on the southern side. I want to stay on the north side next year. I'd like to do Alaska in 2025, that kind of stuff. But write your goals down. Write down what you want to do, and have some kind of system for, okay, these are the musts. Like I told you earlier, for me, the A list, these are the musts. This is what I'm doing. The B list, that's stuff that I add in after we're on the road, is the C list. The B list is stuff that I add in before. I'm like, you know what? I think I have time to do this, so I'm going to add this stuff in. If I can't, you know what? No big deal. I'm going to focus on the A list. Prioritize your ride and what you want to do. You do that in other things in your life. You know, we do that with our budgets and everything else. We prioritize our spending. Well, prioritize this type of stuff too. And when you do stuff on the bucket list, this is what I really want to do. This is stuff I would like to do. If I have time, I'll add it in. And then while you're on the road, like Willie and I did, we'd sit down and we'd talk. And we'd say, hey, you know what? We have time. Let's do this. It wasn't something we had talked about before the trip, but we'd add it in if we had time. So write your goals down, make lists of what you want to do, prioritize things, say this is a must, this is a maybe, this is what I would like to do if we have time. That's how I break it down. Come up with some kind of system, but write your goals down and go for it. It is a lot of fun. I love to ride. That's what this channel is all about, 717 Throttle Therapy. Because for me, it's therapy. I'll ride. I can get tired driving, you know, after 10, 12 hours. I can ride a lot farther, and it doesn't even bother me. I don't know. It's just something about it. I absolutely love it. So we do a lot of short rides, dinner rides and stuff like that. And I usually post that stuff out there. We also do a lot of charity rides. Through the Pennsylvania Riding Club. That's a page on Facebook where we promote a lot of rides. We support a lot of rides. We do have a public page, so feel free to go to Facebook and look up Pennsylvania Riding Club. It doesn't matter if you're from Pennsylvania or not. We have people from Maryland that come up. We have for rides. We have people that post rides in other states. Not as much as we have people coming in from other states to do rides. But at any rate, feel free to go and check that out. I mean, we have people from all over because, let's face it, if I'm going to, let's say I'm going to Oklahoma and there's a charity ride there and I'm going to be in that area over the weekend, hey, I'll join in, you know, and ride for the cause. So, at any rate, hey, over and out. Go ahead, put some of your bucket lists in the comments. You know, what's on your bucket list? What do you want to do? What are some rides that you want to do? What are some things that you want to do in life? Go ahead, post it. If you have more questions about the motorcycle, the Pan America, I mean, it did great for me. I'm absolutely loving it. I was going to take my 2016 Street Glide originally, and after I bought this bike here in March, I said, you know what? I put a couple thousand miles on it before I left. I now have, I bought it March 18th. I have a little over 16,000 miles on it. I'm loving it. I really am enjoying riding it. Our Colorado trip, oh, some of you might wonder on the cost. I did have some people asking about that. It cost us, with everything, right at about $4,000. With that said, you can do it cheaper if you camp more often. We did have, when we toured with the guys in Colorado, we stayed at some pretty nice places. We steak dinners every night and that kind of stuff. So we kind of splurged for a week there. But you don't have to do that. You don't need to do that. You can do it for cheaper than that. But that's what it cost me. Bike averaged around 40 miles a gallon. That was an overall average. I checked the East Coast, the West Coast. I checked it in Colorado again manually. I averaged around 40 miles a gallon on this bike. And, you know, that was loaded down with some stuff, all of our gear and everything. And I think Willie did a little bit better, but his bike doesn't run as high RPMs as the Pan America does. But bike ran great. Absolutely loved it. Still love it. But, all right, over and out. Go ahead. Put some questions in the comments if you want. I'll try to keep up with everything and answer them. Over and out.